the program to save our lives. And I think that we're going to see these lines continue all the way through November 3rd.
And Jonathan Lemire, we're going to be getting to polls next block. We're going to be talking about early voting. I'm just curious, though, what is the White House attitude about the numbers in the 6 swing states that everybody's seeing right now, overwhelmingly breaking the Democrats' way? A lot of first-time voters also breaking the Democrats' way. And in the state of Florida, Republicans are chipping away at the Democratic lead, but Democrats still holding about a 400,000 vote advantage.
It is very much on the White House's minds, Joe, and they're definitely concerned that they're following the same numbers that we all are, too. And they've tried to point as a rebuttal to the idea that there's been a wave this year of new GOP voter registrations. There are more Republicans who have registered to vote for the first time this year than Democrats in a lot of these key battleground states, Pennsylvania in particular. But their aides like to say, they'd like to point to the president's rallies, and they're big. There are thousands of people there every day as a sign of enthusiasm. They say, well, Joe Biden could never do this. Well, first of all, Joe Biden's not trying to do this because he is monitoring, of course, exactly, and adhering to the CDC guidelines. And it's possible, yes, that Biden, like Hillary Clinton before him, would not draw the crowds that Trump does. He is certainly unique in his ability to do that. But there are other signs of enthusiasm, though the Trump team says, look, these rallies show our people are fired up. The counter-argument is, look at these lines in early voting. Are they all Democrats? Of course not. Some Republicans are voting early. But that would seem to be the major display of Democrats' enthusiasm. Not large rallies, but rather turning out to vote and lining up, sometimes for hours, to vote early. One more point. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I was on the president's trip yesterday to New Hampshire and Maine. As a rebuttal, as an attempt to rebut this very argument, when the press pool boarded our cabin for the flight back from Maine to Washington last night, we found on our seats a printout of a tweet from a polling firm that suggested that voters who have not yet voted in 3 states, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, were leaning toward overwhelmingly favoring Trump the rest of the way. And that is, of course, their theory of the case, right? They believe the Democrats will vote early and that Republicans will turn out in huge numbers on Election Day. And that was what they were trying to underscore, is that they could still win this on November 3rd. But 2 final thoughts on that. One, as the virus surges throughout the country, it will become trickier and more dangerous for people to vote in person on November 3rd, which may keep Republican turnout down on that day. And secondly, even if, indeed, more voters cast their ballots for President Trump on November 3rd than vote for Joe Biden on November 3rd, it is far from a given that it will be able to offset these huge early voting totals we're seeing from Democrats. Republicans very nervous about this.
Wow.
And we're going to be talking about Florida in a second with Mark Caputo, who knows the state so well.
Yes, it does.
But what both sides understand is going into Election Day, after all the votes are counted, people that voted leading up to Election Day, Joe Biden is going to be ahead, most likely by a few 100,000 votes, maybe 200,000, 300,000 votes. And we will be looking all night to see if the same-day voting by Republicans, which they expect to do very well, is going to be able to offset the Biden advantage. One thing to remember, though, both sides also believe that that's going to only account for about 35% of the overall vote. So one concern that I keep hearing among Republican strategists and some of the smartest minds in the Republican Party when it comes to politics is this: the Democrats can't be given too big of an advantage going into Election Day, because to put all of their eggs in that one basket, which they are right now, a huge Election Day turnout, it just may not be enough, with Republicans seeing Democrats banking hundreds of thousands of votes in the 6 swing states that matter the most.
So as we mentioned earlier, we're going to get to the